What's up, YouTube? Today, we are going to be doing the most controversial topic in all of cycling, SRAM versus Shimano.
I don't think this video is very controversial, though.
It won't be after the video. People will still think they're right, but unfortunately, they're not.
I think that most people already think Shimano is behind.
Yeah. We're gonna rank a lot of categories here. Every category that I could think of when it comes to bike setup or what you build your bike with, I guess. Jesse rode.
Yeah, this was my video.
A Cervelo.
Trey's totally hijacking my video.
Well, I have ridden a lot of SRAM and
I'm blocking the
just as much Shimano. And Jesse, his first Shimano in a very long time.
Actually, just second Shimano bike, period.
I've had, I think, like 10 Shimano bikes over the years because I used to be a huge Shimano fan.
And specifically, we have the new red Explorer versus the new GRX 825. Me and Trey got into an argument before we started filming, and basically the argument is that I wanted this video to specifically be the gravel versus the gravel, and Trey wanted to do more of a general drop bar group set.
Basically, the only thing that we're going to be talking about that doesn't apply to this is front derailleur shifting on the roadside, and the front derailleur on Shimano physically moves itself slightly faster than the new red SRAM derailleur. But depending on how fast you pedal is how fast your front derailleur is going to shift. So if you're pedaling at 60 RPMs, you're going to have to like turn the crank around to push the chain up on either group set. So they will shift at the same speed because you're not pedaling faster than the derailleur can move. And all of the old problems with the SRAM derailleurs dropping chains is completely fixed with the new red because they made the cage smaller, which doesn't like have as much play in it basically, and it shifts perfectly fine. And I've never dropped my chain on the new SRAM red derailleur, but I did drop my chain like 100 times on my old Madone that had Shimano on it.
And the chain actually ripped a hole in the bike.
There's a hole in the bottom of my bike because I dropped the chain and chain sucked up into the frame, and yeah, Shimano doesn't hold the chain on any better than SRAM.
Shout out to Trey for that road bike tangent. So I rode over 500 miles on both of these drivetrains. I legit did, like for realsies. We're just talking about these two setups specifically, Trey, because this is the only way that this works. It's a 1x13. The Shimano GRX is specifically only a 2x12. You cannot set this up 1x. Did you know that?
Can't. Well, you could. You could just put a 1x chainring on there, and then you'd have almost no gearing in the back. So that wouldn't work for road or gravel.
This cage is like a 36 tooth max cage. This cage is a 46 tooth max cage, but there's only one cassette option with the 13 speed. It doesn't really matter.
So we're gonna start with our subcategory performance. And the first thing is shifting.
SRAM 13 speed has a more tactile feel to it than the Shimano does. And what I mean by that is, you know, when you're playing your PlayStation and it's got the rumble feedback feature in the controller, that is how I feel like the SRAM shifter works. Like it's like driving a manual car, which I don't know how to do, but I've watched enough videos about how it works. All the YouTubers who drive cars talk about how like engaging the shifter is into the gear.
They call it, what do they call it? Like mushy transmissions or something when you're shifting and you can't quite tell if it's there.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Shimano is.
That is exactly what I'm trying to say.
You can feel the SRAM chain like a lock in.
It feels so satisfying to me. Whenever I'm shifting the SRAM, it's like you click it, it goes bang, and then and you really like feel like it happened. The Shimano is so quiet, which might be a positive for some people. If that's a positive for you, that's great. There's a lot of times where I was like, did it shift? Actually, a lot of times where I was like, I don't even know if I shifted. And honestly, I think the SRAM, in my opinion, wins this category.
I agree.
I did go on mountain bike trails with both of these drivetrains. The Shimano is very much lacking in, like, whenever leaves get in this Dura-Ace cassette. And this is a Dura-Ace cassette with the Hyperglide Plus Dura-Ace cassette and Dura-Ace chain. It actually immediately stopped working if any leaf got in here. And I'm not even kidding.
Not very off-road capable for a off-road
I was
gravel
very
group set.
disappointed by that happening because I don't really have that happen at all with the SRAM stuff. I don't know why that's happening. Maybe it's just the SRAM has like rubber bands that they put in the cassette to do like noise deadening, and maybe that helps with keeping the leaves out. I don't know why.
There's also bigger holes underneath the teeth almost where stuff can kind of like push its way through.
Again, we're just going down the line here. Like it was, normally I wouldn't even worry about that, but it was so bad with the leaves and the Shimano that I had to mention it in this video.
Both of Jesse and I think that SRAM has won the shifting category. Congrats, SRAM. Braking, performance. This is going to be a lot shorter segment, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't, so like this is, I think more subjective, and a little bit of this has to do with ergonomics, but the braking performance on this is very good. It's very tight, like not a lot of modulation in the brake lever.
I would agree.
But again, it stops very well, and I think this is a personal preference. If you want a more modulated lever, the SRAM is easily the winner. And we're going to talk about, a lot of this is ergonomics, and I'm going to save a lot of my opinions for that part. The big difference is like this feels like you're pulling the trigger of a gun, and this feels like you're modulating a brake. Does that make sense?
This one gets to its end point of braking.
The bite point so
quickly.
fast.
It's
like
like
immediate.
nothing, and then it's like locked. Where this one you can do like a little bit of braking
Yeah.
and pull it tighter. The other, this is a smaller thing, but depending on how you bleed SRAM, you can make
adjust
it more or less modulation, which is like, it's kind of like a mechanic trick that I don't know if even a lot of people know how to do. Braking is a tie because they're both really good, but depending on what you like, you could like one more than the other, and that's okay.
I'm going to give it a tie too. I also
Is that how you spell tie?
Yeah, TIE.
Cool.
I will say that I've seen more contaminated Shimano brake pads than I've seen contaminated SRAM brake pads. Kind of just feels like the SRAMs are more durable, but that's not really enough to shift my opinion one way or the other.
Ergonomics. Another personal preference.
So this is probably the biggest thing out of all of these things, in my opinion. Both of these levers are designed to have 3 fingers under them, and that's part of the marketing from the company. Technically, I can fit 3 fingers under this. I can't shift. So like, look what happens. Do you see where my fingers are? So now my finger's stuck behind the lever to shift. Do you see that? So what you end up actually doing is riding with 2, because then you can actually pull your finger out to shift the buttons. That is a huge, huge difference between the SRAM. Also, whenever you have 3 fingers here, it don't break.
It don't break. Your
like
fingers are in the way.
You cannot one finger brake with this system. Not because it's not powerful. Like if you put 1 fingers on it, I think it would work. But it's just straight up, it just hits your hand. So in my personal opinion, it is a lie that 3 fingers fit on this specific handle. So in terms of pressing these buttons, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buttons on this shifter. And realistically, there is 3 functions. I know you can do like the computer and stuff, but I don't understand why I have so many buttons here.
It's almost like you don't need them.
I pressed the wrong one. And I'm sure if I got more used to it, I would not do that. But like, why even give me the option to press the wrong button? I also think that these thumb buttons are not in a spot that makes any sense, because again, to press them, you have to completely move your hands off of your control point and then move it up and then press it.
I would say it's the same for SRAM.
We're gonna get into that because it's actually worse on the SRAM. Whenever you're riding and pedaling, not shifting and braking, I do like the nose.
I don't like the nose.
It's
too
like
sharp.
the nose. It's very sharp, and I think that's a personal preference. I really liked it for like this position, like a low arrow with your arms on the tops. I did like it, but ultimately, I think that there's a little bit of false advertising going on here, because there's no way you can actually use the functions of the levers and have 3 fingers underneath them at the same time. So now I have the red levers. Again, I have 3 fingers underneath these. The big difference is that I can press the button. So like, I can actually, you know,
Get to the button.
get to the button.
It's because there's only one button and the other button doesn't get in the way.
It doesn't get in the way. I can also, if you noticed, I can have 3 fingers underneath and also compress the brake the whole way without it contacting my hand. This actually is a true 1-finger braking system. I mean, both of us have ridden these all year. I mean, I have 1,000+ miles on these levers now.
And that was one of the biggest upgrades they made to the new red levers is the braking performance can now be done with 1 finger instead of having to put a little more force in it. But this only applies to the red levers. Like if you have the force ones, they're not as strong, I guess, with 1 finger.
Don't matter. There's no Force Explorer, y'all.
We're only talking about the top end stuff.
The top end stuff. These buttons also suck. I use them whenever I'm being really lazy. I think they're in the wrong spot. My thumb, I can't even like move my thumb 3 fingers underneath. If I put my thumb here, like I can't even bend it in far enough to.
It's in such a bad spot. You have to push it with your knuckle.
Like you have to like either you press it with like the inside of your knuckle, which sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like just so vague, especially with gloves on. Like that's not possible. Or you have to kind of like, it honestly hurts my hand to like make that motion.
I just never use them.
I don't even use them. I appreciate that they're there. I wish that they were just like, honestly, dude, why aren't they on top?
This was going to be my quick aside in this category.
Yeah.
Shimano Road, the Ultegra and Dura-Ace, there's buttons on the top and they make sense.
Why? Because that makes
Shimano.
So much sense to me.
Yeah.
I understand that the bleed port is there, but I feel like you could figure that out. Again, I appreciate the try.
I don't even know if it's possible on Shimano because we don't use it and I haven't spent enough time to set it up, but you can change the screens on your computer with those buttons. So
all of this is programmable too. We'll get into that.
I think that would be a useful use of those buttons. Not for shifting, but if something that you just occasionally need to do, like change your screens on your computer, those would be good.
You know what's funny about that? Like whenever I ride, I literally just have the map. I don't ever change the screen.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this is an easy one. Again, I'm not above criticizing SRAM, we just did, but no brainer. They win by so far in the ergonomics category. It's not even close in my head. And hopefully that demonstration helped you understand why it wasn't close.
And I much prefer this less sharp bend because it gives you the second position of putting this part of your hand up here. This is how I always hold my levers. Even when I had the Rode Shimano stuff, I would hold it up here rather than down here. And you can't do that on this because it's like, it digs into your hand and it's too sharp.
The position up here is like up here.
Yeah.
You have to do like a full, it's like the ski pole position.
So this one goes to SRAM.
And honestly, if we were giving points, I would give SRAM 2 points. I think it's that much better.
Okay, this one's going to be a very quick section. Efficiency. This comes down to the chain, and I guess you could throw chain line in there. We obviously haven't ever tested this.
I have.
Okay, we haven't tested this because we don't have a like chain watt sensor machine thing.
I do.
But other people have, and Dylan Johnson has talked about it, and his reasoning for using Shimano was the chain efficiency, but then he went into like details on one of their podcasts. Over 100K, you would lose 4 minutes if you rode the whole 100K in the least efficient gear on SRAM, which would be the front, obviously the front chainring, and then the biggest gear in the back. And I don't think anyone is riding 100 miles up a super steep climb to lose 4 minutes over 100 miles. So in my mind, there's almost no difference. I think the actual like wattage difference is 2 to 3 watts.
So having ridden both bikes back-to-back days too, like I would go do a long ride on one and then ride the other the next day. It's pretty obvious that the Shimano chain is more efficient.
There you go.
Obviously we're big SRAM people here, but like it's just faster. I felt it. You can feel the difference in the chain. I think I'm pretty sensitive to that kind of stuff. I don't know if anybody would really notice it. It's not something I'm stressed about, but like if you're stressed about it, yeah, the Shimano chain's faster.
2 to 3 watts is what the science says.
Yeah.
But 2 to 3 watts is 2 to 3 watts.
Yeah.
So that one goes to Shimano.
It has to.
The other thing that I was thinking about is like Shimano chain is faster because there's like slightly more play in between those links that allows it to like turn more freely. And in my mind, I was like, that just lets in more dirt. So after 5 miles, SRAM is faster. But that's just me being a Shimano hater. I spelled Shimano wrong. Next category, weight, goes to SRAM because scales exist and this weighs less.
And it's an unfair battle because Shimano doesn't make like a Dura Ace equivalent GRX. Like if you look at like Pete Stetna's bike, he has a Dura Ace crank on the bike.
Two equivalent, 2x road, same chain rings, same cassette sizes, same crank length. SRAM is lighter.
It is lighter, and
so,
again, also being 2x only, it's never going to be lighter because you can only do this with
on
a 2x.
gravel. It's a huge difference. So.
That's actually the old GRX crank too. They didn't update it at all. You know how like normal like cycling media just like kind of goes through like the spec list? That was one of the biggest points that like your old school cycling media outlets like talked about with this new GRX system, which is
the old.
It's like
crank,
the old crank, yeah.
So weight went to SRAM. Next, gear options, as in gear ratio options.
Yeah, so actually Shimano technically wins this because there's just more options, although there's no 1x. The SRAM is just the one, and then you have your chainring sizes, which you can go a mountain bike. You can basically do 32 to 60 with SRAM, right?
They make a 68 tooth front.
Oh, okay. So you can go 32 to 68 with SRAM on the front.
if you want to do that,
you can.
You can.
Actually, that ends up being more options than the Shimano.
Yeah.
Because there's only 2 cassettes and there's only 2 chainring sizes.
I think there's more.
No.
Is there not? Okay, there's 2.
I mean, the aftermarket stuff, but I'm talking from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So I guess, is that a technicality? Or I think this is a tie.
Technically, you can build SRAM with a road rear derailleur or a mountain bike rear derailleur.
No, but I'm talking about like GRX 825 versus XPLR.
I would give it to Shimano because of the multiple chainring and cassette options that you can adjust both to get the range you want.
There's 4 total.
Yeah. Oh.
I
see your technicality.
There's a technicality here. There's 4 total options here, and there is at least 12 total options or more. No, there's at least 20 options with SRAM because of the chainring sizes.
You can pick any chainring you want. I guess it comes down to your bike on what chainring fits.
I'm gonna give this to SRAM because there's so much customizable you can do with different derailleur options. It specifically because Shimano has 0 1x option available. Like there's not one. So I think this has to go to SRAM.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay, cross compatibility, which we just talked about. If you have Shimano, this is your option. If you have SRAM, you can put on a road rear derailleur and a road cassette and run it that way. Or you can put on the mountain bike rear derailleur and run it that way. Or you can get a mountain bike and put drop bars on it and put road shifters.
You could put this on a mountain bike too, I'm pretty sure. Like
you could put that on a mountain bike because it's just UDH.
We haven't tried that, but I think it would work.
You can mix and match however you please and it all just connects right away, where you can't put this on a mountain bike. Or these,
I mean, well, you could.
I guess you could.
Yeah, you could with a 1x. It'd be like a 1x34.
It would.
11 to 36 1x GRX
I guess
drop bar.
More of what I was talking about is the mountain bike group set compatibility. Like you can't. Shimano doesn't make a electronic mountain bike group set that you can connect to these shifters to put on a drop bar mountain bike, which, love it or hate it, are a thing. And if you want one of those, you have to run SRAM pretty much.
Because I can't imagine doing a GRX drop bar mountain bike.
That's what I'm saying. You just can't even do it.
You can't do it.
This one is definitely a personal preference thing, but
I don't know, man.
Aesthetics.
I just don't. I mean, I don't think it's bad with Shimano.
It's mostly the crank, I think.
The old
it
crank
looks
killing
so
Shimano.
Old and not cool. And I think you just have to be like a traditionalist or like Shimano, whether it's on the mountain bike, gravel, or roadside. SRAM looks futuristic and cool.
It looks like a
shiny.
freaking like saw blade, dude. It's so cool looking.
You can't tell me that's not cool.
It is cool. I think in comparison, this is actually not cool.
It's not cool. It looks old.
The levers don't look as cool either.
These are carbon fiber, and everybody thinks that looks cool, where these
actually look. I know we talked about ergonomics.
Old.
I really like the rubberized levers, but they're still not as good as the carbon ones.
So this is our personal preference, but we both think the aesthetics of SRAM are better.
It looks better on more bikes. Like looking at like a Shimano bike, like it just looks dull in comparison.
I would agree. Even on Dura-Ace, which is the shiniest and coolest looking of all of the Shimano.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but I agree. Dura-Ace looks kind of old.
Next subcategory is build. This would be like more for the person building your bike. So if you never build your bike, this is stuff you probably won't have to worry about almost ever because you're not putting your bike together. But me and Jesse have to worry about this every single day because we build all of your bikes. And if you want a custom bike, go to thebicyclestation.com or email us. First category in the building is routing. And this is an easy win for SRAM because there is no wires to route between the battery that is inside of the frame and the front and rear derailleurs have wires going between them. In SRAM, you just bolt on the rear derailleur. And if you were on the road, you would just bolt on the front derailleur and you don't have to route anything to a battery.
You know what's funny about this conversation with the routing? So Shimano's whole thing with 12-speed, right, was that it was wireless.
Only on the levers.
But you know what the consequence of making it wireless does? It makes it shift really slow, actually. I was talking to some other people that like run Shimano, and they say that they prefer to wire their levers because it gives it the shifting speed.
There's less latency between the time you press the button, which is true.
Not having the levers wired creates another situation where you can't update it. We're going to talk about more in a second. The whole wired system, I feel like we're in a worse place than we were being half
when
wired.
It was all wired.
I think it would be better if it was just all wired and they made that better. Because right now, I think them going this half step into semi-wireless has actually created a situation where it's functionally worse than it used to be, which is unfortunate in my head.
And another problem that comes up with the wires, one, aesthetics. I think the biggest problem with this is right by the front derailleur.
Yeah, the wire right here that
on or gravel or anything. Every time I build a bike, I like tape back the wire because even on roads, like just last week, I built up an SL8 with Shimano, which we don't do very often. The wire is like millimeters away from a 28 mil tire. So if you wanted to run a 32, like a lot of people are starting to do on those bikes, the tire is gonna hit your wire and then that's gonna bring up more problems.
I know we have road wheels on this just because we sold the wheel set that was on here. In the build video, the front derailleur and the wire were legitimately a problem with a 42 millimeter tire.
If you run into some mud and you're running Shimano, it's going to rip the wire out of your front derailleur.
And you have no one-by option, so you can't correct that. I'm not saying SRAM's front derailleur is, I don't know if it's better. I know they have that wide one.
Easily going to SRAM.
Yeah, I was always going to. Just being wireless, clearly better. And Shimano's wireless isn't even that good, in my opinion.
Next category, battery.
I think this is going to be a hot take.
This is going to be a hot take. I was just about to say this is going to be one of the more controversial.
I think this is controversial.
In terms of building the bike, it so easily goes to SRAM because you don't have to put a battery in a frame. Some frames are easier to do where the battery's just in the seat post. Some of them you have to like put the battery up through the bottom bracket and screw it like into the frame somewhere around here.
I prefer the seat post. I think that's
seat
the best
post is
solution.
Easier. It makes it harder to route the wires then, but it's not that much harder.
It wasn't that big of a deal on this one.
So in terms of building the bike, SRAM times 1,000. Charging the bike, if we're just talking about batteries, SRAM is so much easier because you just take the batteries off and you put them on the charger. Where Shimano, you have to take your bicycle, the whole bike, to a plug that is close enough to plug in your bike, which if you don't conveniently have an outlet right next to your bike stand is annoying. Because I've had a lot of Shimano bikes and had to deal with this.
There's a lot of problems actually with the Shimano battery whenever you compare it to the SRAM battery. Let's say I came into the shop an hour before my ride to go meet up with the guys and do a long ride and my battery's dead.
You have 3 extras in your truck.
Well, I have a bunch of extras, but even if I didn't, I would have enough time to charge this battery as I was driving.
5 minutes of charging gets you like an hour.
An hour.
Riding.
I mean, that's probably an exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying. Us driving 30 minutes to wherever the ride started or whatever it is, I would have enough time to get enough battery life to finish that ride. Shimano, if you forgot to charge your bike, it is done.
you're screwed.
You just can't do anything about it because of it being attached to the bike. Yes, the battery life on that is a month. It does last forever, but like I have been on rides with people who had Shimano bikes and they were like, oh crap, I haven't charged my bike in a month.
It's dead because I forgot to charge it because it lasts too long almost. But if you remember to charge it all the time, that's fine because it does last a long time.
And I think these things last a long time too.
Those last, I mean, I don't charge, I probably charge mine every week-ish.
I basically just like, if I like have a dead battery on one bike, I'll just take it out, a good one off another and then put the one on the charger.
Say you and your buddy are out riding and you both have SRAM and your battery dies, you can take one of his batteries. You guys can just both put your bikes in the whatever chainring in the front you want and then take 2 charged batteries and put them in your rear derailleur and you can easily get home. Where if you're on a ride with your buddy and you guys both have Shimano and your battery dies, you're riding home with whatever gear your bike died in. Unless you want to do the whole unplug derailleurs and try to get them to plug into each other and shift it into whatever gear you want to stay in for the rest of the ride.
I've seen people do that.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I think this is easily a SRAM.
SRAM wins. Next category is bleeding. Both of them in a general sense are pretty easy to do, and I would say pretty equal. You just, on Shimano, you put a little cup up here and you squeeze that. Unless it's really bad, then you can hook a hose up to the end and push fluid through, which is extremely...
I think if you have to push fluid through is where Shimano falls flat on its face. Like, there's nothing holding that together.
No,
you just put a freaking tube on it, and it's like all over the caliper. Where is it on this?
I don't know. It's new on this.
Is that it?
We haven't even done it on the new calipers.
Oh, you don't need to. Did Shimano change their bleed kit? That has a thread on it. I think they did.
Okay, I haven't even touched that. Okay, I take
Hopefully
that back.
they updated it.
I take that
Maybe
back.
it's better now. Hopefully. It looks like it is because it used to be terrible.
Most of the time you don't have
everywhere.
to do that. Doing a lever bleed on Shimano is actually kind of fun, I think. Bleeding a SRAM brake is always more time consuming because you do have to crack open both sides of it. But like whenever you fill a SRAM hose up, you have control over how much fluid you add to it.
That's the biggest thing I was going to bring up, which we talked about earlier, is how you can adjust the modulation. So you bleed it normally, you push the fluid through on both sides, and then you close up the top, and then with the nut that you open the syringe with, you can open it and push in more or less fluid to make the gap between the pads and the rotor however big or small you want. So you can make it like just that much movement will lock up your brakes, or you can make it full movement, which is really cool, which you can't do when one side is open on Shimano.
Shimano's is like, this is all it is.
You just bleed it with gravity. The other thing to talk about with this is dot fluid versus mineral oil. We call it the sauce. A lot of people like to hate on SRAM for using dot fluid because
what's up with that?
I don't know, because no one knows that it's what's in your car or your motorcycle. And
I've bought dot fluid from like Napa
if
before.
If you need dot fluid for your
like
bike,
the bike
just
shop
go
was closed.
into the car store and buy your dot fluid.
The Napa I went to was like, oh, I've never heard of dot 5 point whatever, and but they had it.
They had it.
They had it.
So everybody thinks dot fluid is like awful, but no one realizes that it's everywhere.
Why is
If you have a car, you're using dot fluid.
What's the deal with people thinking it's bad for you? That's usually what...
I don't know.
That's everybody's thing, but there's no way mineral oil is not bad for you. It's not regulated. There's multiple... The thing that makes me frustrated about this is like dot fluid is regulated by the government.
We're going deep.
Mineral oil is not. And so everybody has a different mineral oil. I don't know about you, but like, it's freaking toxic, but so is 90% of the food that people eat every day. Like, it's hard for me to take that seriously.
All I would say is don't drink either one, put it in your bike and clean it up when you're done, and everything's gonna be okay.
I think if you're eating pesticides, you can't try to make a point in the comment section that
the fluid in your brakes is a reason to like one.
That's my opinion on that.
Anyways,
so if you want to argue with that, you better show me your groceries with all the organic food that you eat.
I wonder what food has dot fluid in it.
All of it. I think
it's a tie.
I think it's a tie. I know my whole rant. My rant was really against the comment section on YouTube not
Everyone's just like, SRAM uses dot fluid.
Yeah, so that rant was directed at y'all for directing your anger at us in the comment section.
I think that's the worst argument you can even talk about SRAM versus Shimano is what kind of fluid it uses.
Yeah,
anyways,
I do think it's a tie.
Next is setup adjustment.
Do you think Shimano initially wins? Transmission is a little bit of a thing, right? You have to
it's so easy.
I think it's incredibly easy.
You need a torque wrench, but it is so easy. You just put it on and it works. This, you put it on and it's a time-consuming setup because there's limit screws and such. SRAM doesn't have those. It just knows that if you're in the middle of the derailleur, it can only go so far one way because all the cassettes are the same.
Pairing the system is part of the setup on both of them, and pairing the SRAM system is so easy.
Let's talk about Shimano because it's not good.
E-Tube is what this app is called.
Yeah, sometimes when we're connecting Shimano, you can see on camera live time of how long it takes.
Wait, what is it reading?
You gotta
wait, no, what's it doing? I just opened the app. This is a real experience, y'all. Okay, wait. Okay, so how do I connect it?
I gotta find your button. Where is it on this one?
Yeah, you got it. It's blinking. Okay, so we're gonna connect to the bike now.
And then you're gonna wait a minute or two. Oh, it stopped.
Oh, blink it again.
It stopped doing its thing. Where is this button? There it is. It's like hidden.
Blink it.
It doesn't want to go into pairing mode now.
Isn't blue the right color?
Okay.
Oh, okay. It pulled up. Okay.
That was
connecting. Oh my God.
Shimano.
Come on, dude. This is insane.
Okay, we're in.
Okay, we're in. Okay. One thing I absolutely hate
is all of it.
It doesn't work now because we've connected it to the phone. You can't shift it.
You can't shift.
So if you're trying to micro adjust it, it doesn't.
Well, you can micro adjust it. You just have to do it in the app, which is extremely slow.
Let's see what updates we need to do. So one thing I never did
is update the levers.
Is because you can't. Oh wait, press the right lever.
It's just gonna tell you to like plug it in.
And then press the left lever. Why doesn't it know?
Because it's connected.
Okay, and then it wants us to go to a procedure, and what it's going to tell us to do is actually plug it into the computer.
You can't wirelessly update Shimano levers. You have to take the bike over to a computer and plug it in.
One of my buddies told me that if it's wired to the derailleur, it will update.
There you go. You got to get a really long wire to
and so what we should have done
a quick route
is whenever we were building this bike, before we installed the hoses, we should have plugged
everything
that into there
off the bike.
And then updated it. But like, let's say it gets an update down the road, like we can't undo it and do it again.
You got to go to a computer.
So ultimately, we just didn't update it.
Yep.
I am up to date. I am not exaggerating. It took 45 minutes to an hour to update these parts.
You can't leave that screen on your phone while it's updating. So get ready to set down your phone. Don't check Instagram or Twitter or the football game or whatever. You just got to let your phone sit there and do its updating.
I'm always mad every time I have to update it because I know it's going to take like so long, and it's a frustrating experience.
And also, you have to charge the bike beforehand. So it's not like you can update it like while you're building it, because first thing you have to do is charge it, which takes a little while, and then you can update it. Where SRAM, you can just throw a battery in because you got them laying everywhere and update it as you're building it. SRAM, the app is conveniently called SRAM.
I have some beefs with SRAM's app too, but in general it works much better. Just click the button.
Okay, there it is. We're in.
We're already connected.
Oh, it is loading. It's calculating.
I think that this is much simpler. The updates take 30 seconds. It has much easier configurations.
And you can change everything like in a second.
It doesn't work perfectly all the time. Actually, sometimes it is in fact a little whack, but it's so much better than Shimano's that this is a no-brainer. Like SRAM wins this by a mile.
And if you were micro adjusting, you can still shift with the levers. You can still shift,
like press the button.
To like know
like
whether
I'm connected to it and it still works.
Yeah, you can't do that with Shimano.
Like, so you could actually be riding
and
change it.
Yeah. You can also, this is an aside, but you can micro adjust SRAM while riding. Micro adjust buttons are on the back of the shifter there. I don't know if you guys can see it. You just hold in that and push the lever in and you can micro adjust. So if for whatever reason your SRAM wasn't shifting perfectly while you were out on a ride, you can literally just hold that button while riding. Where Shimano, you gotta get off your bike, hold the button on the rear derailleur until it's in micro adjust mode and then click the buttons, which you can't tell whether it's working because you're not pedaling anymore. So you just guess and hope that it went the right way in the right amount and then get out of micro adjust mode and then get back on and pedal away.
I think the SRAM wins by a lot.
If we were talking about front derailleurs, the new SRAM red front derailleur thing that you shove in, this right here. You put this in the front derailleur, it has lines on it, you line everything up, you tighten it, it's good. Shimano comes with a sticker on the front derailleur that roughly aligns the teeth on the chainring with the front derailleur.
I've had situations where I could not get the wireless levers to pair to the rear derailleur. I actually had to call Shimano a couple times about this, and it just doesn't seem to be working that smoothly. I mean, hopefully this stuff can be ironed out, but right now,
I forget what every Shimano bike we've built this year out of the box has had that problem.
Yeah.
When it's a complete bike. And
this one actually was the best.
You gotta scan the QR codes to like sync it.
Well, like getting them to scan too is hard.
Setup adjustment app easily goes to SRAM. All right, last category is maintenance, which outside of the regular like cleaning and that type of maintenance, we just have two little things. The first one, oh no, my battery has gone bad, which happens to batteries. They no longer hold a charge or just stop working. Shimano, you're gonna have to disassemble your bike to get a new battery. And
not that much.
It's a lot less.
Well, on this one, it's like you just pull the seat out.
It's pretty easy on this one. Say it's the one in the
chill.
Bottom bracket where you gotta take apart your bottom bracket.
Old bike.
Also,
annoying.
The batteries are more expensive. I guess if you have 2x, you need 2 of them on SRAM. SRAM seem to be way more in stock at all times, especially in stores. Like every store has a SRAM battery where
like if you were in a pinch and needed to go to the bike shop and get a battery, like you're probably going to succeed.
And if you needed one for Shimano, you're probably going to have your bike shop replace it for you too, which might require you to drop off your bike for a week or two. So that goes to SRAM.
It's funny that the SRAM ones being more disposable actually is a benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people would say like, oh, the Shimanos aren't as disposable, but like ultimately like they're disposable because it's more convenient.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can have arguments about that and if that's ethical or not, but ultimately like customers have decided that they prefer the disposable lifestyle.
And if you listen to the Bonk Bros podcast recently, Dylan talked about possibly switching to SRAM and 2 experiences where he had his SRAM or Shimano battery die, one of them while he was traveling in a different country, and then had to go through the whole hassle of finding a bike shop that had one in stock and being able to replace it for him.
See, I just don't think the 2 watts in the chain, which by the way, again, I already said is there, it's not worth it.
So that first oh no situation goes to SRAM.
I love the SRAM too. Like the funniest thing is like your buddy can just bail you out.
Yeah.
Like your buddy with an extra battery.
Everybody has an extra battery. Second oh no situation. As someone who works at a bike shop, this happens a lot. Their bike is not shifting. Just something is wrong, nothing's happening, they're pressing a button, it's not shifting. It's either these batteries in the shifters themselves, which are easy to check because you just push this button and there's a light that tells you if it's on or off, or you can connect it to the app and that tells you, or it's the battery in the derailleurs, which you can just pop it off and put a new one in and see if it works or not.
One thing I've encountered too is customers who like aren't tech savvy sometimes have somehow configured it to where like the shifter is doing something like a computer or whatever, and it's like just paired to the wrong action.
Wrong.
I've seen that happen.
But especially, that's easy to figure out because the app works flawlessly. Shimano, this has happened to me multiple times this year where somebody has brought their bike in, it's not shifting, and diagnosing where a wire is unplugged or where a battery has died. Say it is just their battery, I have to disassemble their bike now just to see if it is their battery that's dead. Their battery could be fine, but something could just be unplugged inside of the bike where I have to take apart the bike to just plug in another wire or something along those lines. When it comes to diagnosing problems on the bikes, so easily goes to SRAM.
I think that also comes back to the app. Like, the app is giving you so much relevant information. I think the Shimano app gives you similar information, but it's so much harder to get access to it. It's like a whole rigmarole to get into that and figure it out. And if the system is already having a problem or it's not paired, like, so once you pair this to those, like, this remembers it's paired to that, right? And even if this has a dead battery, the derailleur knows it has a dead battery and the app will show you. Whereas with the Shimano, if something's all effed up, it's like trying to connect at the beginning and it just won't connect to that item, which is less information than SRAM gives you. Even though it does help you get a better idea of what's going on, it still doesn't really tell you. You know what I mean? Like, if the derailleur is unplugged, it just won't even show up on the app at all. Like, it has no memory is what I'm trying to say, which I just said in a really convoluted way.
So both of those oh no situations easily go to SRAM. And I just thought of a very big category that I don't know how we missed when talking about this.
Oh man!
But this one's hilarious.
This is brutal, dude.
This is probably top 1 or 2 reasons to get SRAM.
Why?
Power meters. Shimano does make power meters. Everyone everywhere knows that they are the worst power meters ever made.
What's the guy who does power meter stuff that's not DC Rainmaker? The other guy with the
GP Llama?
Llama guy. Llama guy has some incredible videos where he demonstrates
how bad a Shimano power meter
So
is.
what it does is the Shimano power meter, when you shift the front derailleur, it artificially just deletes wattage. It's not measuring, it's just doing a bad math problem and it's calculating it wrong. And I have not heard that that's fixed.
So Shimano power meters are awful. The only other option is to get 4i power meters,
which conveniently this bike actually did come with.
A lot of times if you buy a complete Shimano bike, they come with 4i power meters.
At least my 4i power meter. But that's Cervelo doing that. That
is the bike
Shimano
manufacturer's option to get that. This one's only a left side power meter, which is inferior to SRAM's corks that are dual-sided. But let's say your bike didn't come with a 4i power meter. Your only option is to either get pedal-based power meters, which some of them are okay, but they bring up problems like bike fit problems because they're usually super wide.
I do not want pedal power.
Yeah,
I'm just sorry.
They just don't work as good as crank-based power meters.
And you're locked into the cleat systems. Like I could not run a pedal power meter because I refuse to run a different pedal.
If you wanted a 4i, you have 2 options. The power meter, which gets rid of your old crank and you have a new crank now, which is kind of a waste of money. Second option is you can take the crank off of your bike, ship it to 4i, they'll install the power meter on your crank and then ship it back to you, which I've never done, but I can only assume is a 3-week minimum.
I bet it happens pretty quick.
Shipping alone would take 10 days, I would think, getting it there and then getting it back. So you're looking at 2 weeks without a bike. Where I actually was on a team that was a Shimano team, and everyone on that team ran a SRAM crank with a cork D4 power meter, which is Shimano's bolt pattern on a cork, and then you put Shimano rings on that cork. So that's what everybody used, which is a SRAM product. And SRAM group sets come with cork power meters, which are just known to be the best in the business. So if you want power, reliable power, get a SRAM.
This might be before Trey's time, and it's definitely before my time, but I've just worked on them before. Have you ever worked on an SRM?
Those are old. That was before I rode bikes, probably.
So to replace the battery in an SRM, guess what you had to do?
Probably take everything apart.
No. Do not take that apart.
Ship it to them?
You had to ship it to them, and they would fix your battery and send it back.
That's awesome.
I used to do it for customers in Bloomington. They'd bring me their SRMs, and I'd ship them. They have like a service center somewhere. I mean, I haven't seen an SRM in years, but
they're old.
People still swear by like the accuracy of their power meter. I mean, I can't say that's wrong, but it's not
as good.
It's fine.
And way easier to have.
Power is already like inaccurate, right? Like all you need is some idea. All you need is to be like within some kind of idea of what's going on, and it's useful.
I think every calibrated cork reads the same.
I do too, because I own 10 corks personally, and they all are consistent, so I would agree with that.
So power meter, that's 5 points for SRAM. SRAM obviously won. I don't even know if we should count it up because We're going to count it.
Count
Okay,
it, bud.
hold on. SRAM's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points SRAM, 1 point Shimano, 2 ties. SRAM wins every single category except for efficiency. So.
And I also want to point out.
And then Jesse has a big hot take.
Well, I'm gonna
Not
get
even
to my.
a hot take.
I'm gonna get to my take. I want to point out here too. As a bike shop, we sold 1 Shimano build all year.
We did 50 custom builds this year. I don't know. That's just
no.
A random
You're right.
number.
We legit did 50.
We sold 1 custom build Shimano bike.
Yep.
1 bike, and that was not because of us. The customer gets to choose what they want to put on their bike. So for everyone saying Shimano is better, where are you?
Where are these people? Like buy
buying.
something. Make me feel that it's worth our time.
The one Shimano bike we did build was sick.
It was awesome.
I was just really disappointed that it had Shimano on it.
Who was?
What?
Who was disappointed?
Me, because I had to build it, which takes a full day. Where SRAM, I could do 3 SRAM builds.
And you had to buy him a weird crank and all this weird.
We had to set up an account with 4i to get a crank that worked for his bike because Shimano, 1, he didn't want their power meter. 2, they were out of stock of all of their Dura-Ace power meters.
Which he shouldn't have bought anyway.
Should have just went with
One time I had a guy wanted the full matching Dura-Ace, and I was like, hey man, I can't sell this to you in good consciousness. Like,
it won't work.
I sent him the llama videos and he was like shocked. And people just don't know. GRX is completely functional. That was a very generalized kind of discussion. I think you could apply that to like general. We did try to keep it gravel as much as possible. I'm gonna take it back to gravel in like, what do I think the best gravel drivetrain is? And ultimately it is neither of these.
It isn't.
Would you have expected me to say that?
Yes,
probably.
Because I've been riding the best option for 2 years.
All right, so Shimano loses just straight up, and not because it shifts bad or anything like that. Shimano loses. My number one problem with it is the ergonomic problem that I went through, where you can't actually use the levers. It just isn't there.
That's a struggle.
I'm gonna move that bike out of the way. Just like, we'll just punt this one over here.
If you guys want to buy a GRX group set, it will be on eBay shortly.
This is just some random transmission stuff I found in a drawer. This is a T-type transmission cassette. This is a Red Explorer, obviously. There's 2 major things going on here. The gear range from this is so much more flexible, and believe that it is more practical gear set at the end of the day. This is lacking a climbing gear in my head.
I don't understand the thought of choosing less gears with almost 0 benefit. There's an extra tooth in there which makes the jumps between gears not as good, but unless you have really fragile legs, like, get that. If you can't pedal an extra 3 RPMs higher or lower outside of your preferred cadence, like, train 10 RPMs higher and lower, and then you can easily have 12 teeth with a wider range.
Every time I ride this, I'm just scratching my head. Like, I can literally not go on a ride around here and comfortably climb on this cassette.
We don't live in a super hilly area. We have hills and they're kind of steep. There's no mountains or anything where we would, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. If you live in Florida, that might be better.
It's like a super flatland group set, in my opinion. I think this would be much better on a road bike.
That's a road bike group set.
I think it's a road bike. I've talked about this in another video. I even installed it on my tarmac. I think that this is a much better group set for road bikes than it is for gravel bikes. I have had to downsize my front chainring to accommodate this, and I honestly think I should downsize it again if I was going to continue to use this. But then the bike just ends up feeling slow.
Then you don't have enough top end.
You don't have enough top
where
end.
You can easily run a big front chainring with the 52 tooth in the back. You can climb up a mountain, a steep one, with that gear range. And then you can also pedal along at 45 miles an hour without spinning out.
That's all super relevant. There's one nail in this coffin, though.
Shimano's coffin?
No, this stuff.
Oh, SRAM's coffin.
SRAM is nailing themselves in the coffin.
Dang, they did it.
Can you guess what I'm about to say?
No, but
you have Trey has not ridden this, just so we're on the same page.
I haven't ridden this, and I don't. Have we done a custom build with that?
I have, yeah. I've done 2 or 3. People, whenever I sell this to them, I make sure they are flat landing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
This stuff
it has a purpose, but it's very, very niche purpose.
This is not garbage at all. I think it performs amazing. I just don't, it's a head scratcher to me. So the nail, though, the whole point of transmission is that this is bolted onto the axle, right? And so it has timed shifts with the exact cogs.
There's shift ramps
There's
on
shift
the
ramps
cog.
on the, it's exactly what we're talking about. This doesn't have that.
That has shift ramps, but it's not like timed.
Well, okay, so what this has is T-type shift logic.
Yeah.
This doesn't do anything. If you press the button, it just goes. This, if you press the button, it waits for the exact moment on the rotation, and then it shifts. A lot of people have talked about how whenever they ride transmission on a mountain bike, the shifting feels slow. The reason is cadence is slow. Trey was kind of talking about this earlier with the front derailleur, like your cadence determines how fast it shifts. With a gravel bike, most of the time you're riding at higher cadences. And so ultimately what happens is it shifts faster. And then at the same time, not only is it shifting faster, the shifts are literally perfect. And I think the shifting performance of this just still, this is really good, but like it's so much better with this. And I don't think you're really losing anything. I think in fact you're gaining gear range and shifting performance at the exact same time. The only thing I can think of is that this is a little bit heavier than that. Ultimately, if I was going to recommend y'all a gravel group set today, it is a no-brainer. SRAM T-Type. You can buy it in the cheapest form. You could put GRX T-Type on your bike and it'll shift brilliantly.
I did this whole year on the T-Type stuff. It feels absolutely fine. There was never a moment where I was like, why is this not shifting fast enough? The first 2 shifts on the T-Type are just as fast as every other rear derailleur. It's the 3rd shift after that that is slow. So if you hammer the button real quick 5 times, it goes bzz, bzz, and then after that it slows down. So it shifts twice really fast and then slows down, and that's so it doesn't jam the derailleur. Because
into it'll physically contact.
If you ever had like a mechanical Shimano mountain bike group set and just slammed 4 gears, it would just bind up. And that's what this is purposely avoiding. And it shifts perfectly. There's no downside to the slower speed that it shifts at, because really you can't pedal fast enough for that slow speed to matter.
Why do you think SRAM made this?
For the Florida people.
Do you think that the racers are the reason they made this? Because I don't understand.
The racers aren't using that. Go to my Instagram. I interviewed a lot of the racers, and they were all running transmission, except for maybe 1 or 2 had this on for the pre-rides, like the chamois butter ride and all those stuff, to show it off because it was new. And then on race day, they magically switched to the transmission. There's a lot of marketing that goes on in the pro world, but when it comes to race day, they put on what they prefer.
My favorite is the Trek photos of them with the Trek tires, and then they switch to Maxxis tires like for the race.
Yeah.
Specialized athletes at least run the Specialized tires. Yeah.
I think they like them. Specialized has a little more of a chokehold on them, but that's neither here nor there.
So yeah, argue with us is, I guess, the point of this. Write your thesis statement down below. Tell everybody what you think. I'll read it.
We'll read the comments. Tell us why 2 watts in the chain is the reason you're running Shimano, because that's all they have. I guess unless you prefer the looks of Shimano and the ergonomics, because those are personal preferences.
I don't think the ergonomics on that is personal preference. I think that's just a lie.
Yeah.
I feel lied to. Like it's
work.
like not. It doesn't. It's not what they said. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to reading what y'all think about this.
If you made it this far in the video,
yeah, this is probably a 40-minute video.
Thank you very much for watching.
We didn't even tell anybody to buy something in this video.
We hope you appreciated this information. SRAM, I know you appreciated this information, because we're going to sell even more of it. Not that we had a problem doing that before. If you guys want a custom build, whether it be SRAM or Shimano,
we'll do a Shimano build.
We'll do either one. We hope you pick SRAM. Send us an email to sales@thebicyclestation if you want a custom build, or call us. We're here in the shop and we'll talk to you on the phone. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye, SRAM. Bye.